worse than crucifixion, worse than being thrown to the lions, worse than any torture device ever conceived by Roman hands. There existed one punishment so psychologically devastating that its victims begged for death, and were denied even that mercy. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what Roman emperors did to the enemies they could not execute, and why this forgotten punishment was deliberately erased from most history books you've ever read. Power does strange things to human beings, but absolute power, the kind wielded by men who called themselves gods on earth, that kind of power invents cruelties that ordinary minds cannot fathom. The Romans built civilization, yes, roads, aqueducts, law, architecture that still stands 2,000 years later. But beneath the marble and the glory, there was a darkness so refined, so calculated that it makes every medieval dungeon look primitive by comparison. And the worst of it? It was not physical. It was something far more insidious. Something that destroyed a person completely while keeping their heart beating. What could possibly be worse than death in an empire that perfected execution as public entertainment? For centuries, this was hidden from the world. Not because the evidence was lost, but because it was scattered deliberately across obscure texts, fragmented inscriptions, and legal documents that scholars dismissed as exaggeration. The Roman Empire lasted over 500 years in the West alone. And across that vast stretch of time, emperors faced a recurring problem. Some enemies were too powerful to kill. A senator with deep alliances, a general whose legions would revolt if he were executed, a political rival whose martyrdom would spark civil war. Killing them would create more problems than it solved. So the emperors needed something else, something that would neutralize a threat completely, erase a person from relevance, and serve as a warning so terrifying that others would never dare challenge imperial authority. They needed a fate worse than death, and they found one. Here's the thing. What historians don't tell you is that Rome had an elaborate legal and social framework designed specifically for the living destruction of human beings. It was not a single act of cruelty. It was a system, a machine built from law, custom, and psychological precision that could reduce the most powerful man in the empire to something less than a slave, less than an animal, less than nothing at all. The foundation of this system was a concept called damnatio memoriae, the condemnation of memory. On the surface, it sounds almost abstract. Erase someone's name from records, chisel their face off statues, pretend they never existed. But consider what this actually meant in practice. You are a Roman senator. You have served the state for 30 years. You've built monuments, funded temples, commissioned great works of art. Your name is carved into stone across the empire. Your family lineage is celebrated. Your children carry your legacy forward. And then, in a single decree, all of it vanishes. Your name is hammered off every inscription. Your statues are smashed or recarved to bear another face. Your portraits are burned. Official records are altered so that your consulship, your military victories, your entire career simply never happened. Your family is forbidden from mourning you. Your children are stripped of their inheritance, often stripped of your very name. You become a ghost while still breathing, a man with no past, no present, and no future. Every trace that you ever walked this earth is systematically obliterated. But damnatio memoriae was only the beginning, and that's where it gets strange. Because the truth was buried for a reason, and that reason is the depth of what came next. For the truly dangerous enemies, the ones who could not be killed but had to be neutralized absolutely, emperors deployed something even more devastating. It was called aquae et ignis interdictio, the interdiction of water and fire. This ancient punishment predated even the emperors themselves, but they perfected it under their rule. It stripped a person of the two elements Romans considered essential to civilized existence. Water and fire represented shelter, sustenance, community, humanity itself. To be interdicted from water and fire meant that no Roman citizen could offer you a roof, a meal, a drink, or a warm hearth. You were not exiled to a specific place. You were exiled from humanity. Anyone who aided you faced severe punishment themselves. You became untouchable. A living contamination wandering the edges of the civilized world. Now imagine the full weight of both punishments combined, because that is exactly what happened to some of Rome's most prominent figures. Emperor Domitian perfected this combination into an art form. His targets did not simply disappear, they were unmade. The philosopher Dio Chrysostom recorded accounts of men who had been so thoroughly erased that their own families denied ever knowing them, not out of cruelty, out of sheer survival, because acknowledging a condemned man's existence could bring the same fate upon your own household. Think about that for a second. The evidence runs deeper than most scholars have acknowledged. Archaeological work across the Mediterranean has uncovered hundreds of statues with faces deliberately recarved, inscriptions with names chiseled away so violently that the stone itself is scarred. In the Roman Forum, there are pedestals that once held bronze statues of men whose identities we will never recover, because the erasure was that complete. These are not random acts of vandalism. The chisel marks show precision, intent, official sanction. Teams of workers were dispatched across the empire to ensure that every trace was eliminated. The logistical effort alone reveals how seriously Rome took this punishment. It was not symbolic, it was industrial. But here is where the true horror shows itself, the detail that separates this from mere political exile or public shaming. The Roman concept of the afterlife was completely tied to memory. Romans did not believe in salvation through faith or divine judgment the way later civilizations would. For a Roman, immortality meant being remembered. The dead lived on through their descendants, through the rituals performed at their tombs, through the speaking of their names at family gatherings and public ceremonies. To be forgotten was not merely a social punishment, it was spiritual annihilation. The complete destruction of your memory meant the complete destruction of your soul. You would not pass into the company of your ancestors. You would not be honored at the parentalia. You would not exist in any realm, living or dead. The emperors who wielded damnatio memoriae understood this with chilling clarity. They were not just punishing a body or restricting a life, they were annihilating a soul for eternity. Consider the case of Publius Septimius Geta, the younger son of Emperor Septimius Severus. When his brother Caracalla murdered him, in their mother's arms, in the year 211, killing Geta was not enough. Caracalla launched one of the most thorough campaigns of damnatio memoriae in Roman history. Over 20,000 people who had supported Geta were executed. But Geta himself, even in death, suffered the greater punishment. His face was scraped from family portraits. A famous painted tondo, which survives today in Berlin, shows the imperial family with a haunting blank space where Geta's face once was. His name was gouged from inscriptions across 3 continents. Caracalla did not simply want his brother dead, he wanted him to have never existed at all, or consider Nero's treatment of his own mother, Agrippina, after her murder, or the Senate's condemnation of Commodus after his assassination, when his name was attacked across the empire with such ferocity that workers sometimes damaged entire inscriptions trying to erase just his portion. The pattern repeats across centuries, each iteration more systematic than the last. What makes this punishment so uniquely terrifying, what elevates it beyond anything we typically associate with Roman cruelty, is its totality. Crucifixion destroyed the body. The arena destroyed the body. Torture destroyed the body. But damnatio memoriae destroyed the body, the legacy, the family, the memory, and the soul, all simultaneously. The victim was stripped of their past, abandoned in their present, and denied any future, in this world or the next. They became an unperson in a civilization that valued personhood above almost everything else. And here's the part that should unsettle every one of us. This was not the act of a single mad emperor. This was codified Roman law. It was debated in the Senate. It was implemented by bureaucrats and stonemasons and scribes who went home to their families afterward and ate dinner. The systematic erasure of a human being's entire existence was normalized, institutionalized, made routine. It was governance. Now ask yourself why this matters today. We live in an age of digital memory, where a single social media post can follow a person for the rest of their life, but where an account can also be deleted, a reputation destroyed, a career erased in hours. The tools have changed. The impulse has not. The desire to not merely defeat an enemy, but to unmake them, to erase them from the story entirely. That is as old as power itself. Cancel culture, historical revisionism, the airbrushing of photographs under totalitarian regimes, the deletion of records. the rewriting of textbooks, the fingerprints of damnatio memoriae are everywhere in the modern world. The Romans did not invent the impulse to erase. They simply perfected the machinery. What the Romans understood, and what we are only beginning to reckon with again, is that the most devastating punishment is not the destruction of the body. It is the destruction of meaning. To take everything a person was, everything they built, everyone who loved them, and reduce it all to silence. No grave to visit, no name to speak, no proof that you ever drew breath on this earth. That is the forbidden punishment worse than death. Not an ending, an unmaking. If this changed the way you think about power and what it truly means to destroy someone, the like button is right there. It helps more people find stories like this, stories that were buried for a reason. And if you want to keep uncovering the hidden truths that history tried to erase, subscribe to Historical Secrets, because there are darker chapters still waiting, and we are only getting started.